Well, it wasn't exactly the love train yesterday, but the candidates did get together at a Rick Snyder event. You've heard the story by now from many of our experts this morning and the candidates themselves. Now the Democratic Party Chair Mark Brewer in our Gillespie Group storefront studio. Well, what did you make of what went on there yesterday?
Well, I thought what Verge did showed creativity and boldness. I thought it was a good idea to try to get things moving off these debate things. Unfortunately, in the bizarre world of Rick Snyder, what happened last night will probably count as a debate. I mean, it's clearly been a lot of obstructionism. Let's hold the debate in the most remote, inaccessible, unviewable place possible. But on the other hand, if you had this guy's record of, laying off people and outsourcing jobs at Gateway, I think you'd want to avoid public scrutiny too.
Well, he told us, Rick Snyder, about an hour ago he wasn't changing his mind. He's not going to participate in debates now. So it's almost like a bluff, like, okay, now the Bernero campaign is coming back and saying we'll do 3, and he's still holding the line.
Oh, again, Michael Patrick, I mean, you saw this in the Republican primary. He participated in 1 or 2 of those debates and got the gentlest kind of criticism. Somebody had the audacity to ask him about Gateway and what happened there, the layoffs, the outsourcing, the profits. And he hightailed it and ran. He didn't appear at any more debates. I think Virgil Bernero's absolutely right. If you're not willing to stand up there and take questions, not from some scripted audience. I've been to these town halls. I've seen the people that are there. You got to pre-register. They're pre-screened. They're scripted. He's in and out of there, in about 45 minutes. These town halls are no substitute for a vigorous, robust debate about the serious challenges facing the state. And Rick obviously is afraid to deal with that.
Well, he will get that kind of vetting from media people, though, won't he?
I don't think you'll get that in the way that I've seen it again, even at these events. The media pieces are very scripted. They get to stand in the back of the room, and the folks there are going to ask predictable questions because they're most invariably Republicans. And like I said, they've been pre-screened. You're not going to get him in some live, unscripted moment where he has to answer a question on his feet. That's not the way government works. You got to deal with legislators. You got to deal with other, heads of government elsewhere. You've got to deal with folks, and things are not always scripted. He's acting because he is like one of these corporate CEOs who's not used to dealing with people. He's handed his script. He's protected by his handlers from, the mob and the rest of us. That's not the way a democracy, and that's not the way government works. And if he wants to be governor, he needs to be able to handle that.
Now that you mention it, it almost reminds me of Roger and Me. Remember that movie where Michael Moore went looking for the chairman, Roger Smith of General Motors, because he was never accessible, and so he turned up at board meetings and he turned up in the lobby of the General Motors building looking to talk to him. Is Rick Snyder ultimately ducking Verge Bernero?
I think that's absolutely right. And worse than that, it's not just Verge Bernero. He's ducking the voters of Michigan. He only wants to be seen in these highly scripted settings, in these 30-second posed ads. He doesn't want people to have a chance to ask him a real live question and hear an answer that he may not be, a question he may not be prepared for. And that's not the kind of governor we need. If we need a governor now who can smart, think on their feet, deal with difficult people. If he thinks government is just going to be another corporate job like he's had his entire life, he's sadly mistaken.
He did answer a straight question this morning that I wondered if he would answer when I asked him, and that was about the extension of the Bush tax cuts. Mayor Bernero told me clearly yesterday he felt that we couldn't afford an extension of the cuts for those considered wealthy over $200,000 or couples over $250,000. And Rick Snyder is the opposite. He thinks that this is no time to put a tax increase on anybody, particularly the job creators.
Particularly himself, Michael Patrick. I mean, think about the self-interest in that, in the answer to that question. That basically means, he's not willing to pay more of his fair share of what it costs to run our society. So I think that's the context in which you've got to think about that. And that's the context in which he thinks about these things. Again, that's why he cares so little about the outsourcing and the layoffs and everything else that happened at Gateway as that company crashed and he sold it off to a Chinese company. Rick Snyder got rich, and he's still living off that rich. I ask every one of your listeners and viewers, as you watch Snyder ads this fall, think about how many people lost their jobs so that Rick Snyder could raise the money to pay for those ads. Because literally you can draw a connection between the layoffs and the outsourcing at Gateway and the millions of dollars that Rick Snyder made there, and that's the money that's financing his campaign. So that's what people should think about when they see these ads this fall. The victims, the shareholders, the workers, the customers of Gateway.
He says that he wants to replace the Michigan business tax with a 6%. Actually, he doesn't say that. He says, I want to get it to 6%, meaning it could start higher.
And it could go higher. Again, and this is the kind of waffling that we see. That's why you need a debate. What are you going to do on taxes? Rick Snyder, is it this or is it that? the voters deserve to know before they go in the voting booth on November 2nd, where both these candidates stand on those issues and hundreds of others. They shouldn't have to guess and wait to see what a candidate's going to do once they get into office. Rick Snyder owes that to the voters of Michigan. He owes them full, robust, televised public debates.
Well, I don't know when this coffee meeting they're going to have is going to take place, but and I don't know if we're going to have debates, but I see that there is going to be a straw man debate that the mayor has agreed to attend. It's a televised debate in Detroit in October.
Well, here's my prediction, Michael Patrick. Now, Snyder will retreat behind his handlers, and there'll be negotiations and debate over whether they even get together for coffee. That's my prediction.
You're kidding.
I think there'll
After
be more
all
obstructionism. I think there'll be more obstructionism.
We'll see what happens. Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Mark Brewer, the Democratic Party chair.